Imagine this. A fragile old woman stands at the entrance of a grand wedding hall. Her hands tremble, but her eyes burn with something deeper than rage. Deeper than sadness. The music dies. The laughter cuts off mid-breath. Guests turn, champagne glasses frozen in the air. She wears a faded lavender dress, ironed with hands that have known decades of sacrifice. Her face is a map of every hardship she's endured. Her presence is out of place here, and yet, she belongs more than anyone in the room. And then, with a voice just above a whisper, she says a single sentence. And the entire room holds its breath. The groom's smile drops. The bride's hand tightens on her bouquet. A mother. A betrayal. And a truth the world would not forget. But what happened before that moment? Let us go back to where it all began. But before we begin, if you've ever experienced something similar, leave a word of strength in the comments. And please don't forget to like and share this story with your friends or loved ones. It might help someone out there who's struggling silently. May you be rewarded for supporting, subscribing, and spreading this message of truth. Now let's continue the story. The rain tapped gently against the window panes of the modest one-bedroom apartment, a rhythmic sound that Evelyn Monroe had grown used to over the years. It was her only companion most days now. The couch had sunken at the corners where she sat every evening, knitting small things for no one in particular. The kitchen clock ticked too loud. Her heater groaned when it worked. She rarely turned it on. Utilities were expensive, and her pension only stretched so far. She didn't complain. Because soon, she told herself, she would see her boy get married. Evelyn had spent her life raising Calvin. She scrubbed floors with chapped hands, walked home in broken shoes, and skipped meals when money got tight. She missed her husband every day, but her son had always been enough. He was bright, charming, the pride of her heart. And when he told her he had met the one, Evelyn smiled so wide she thought her old heart might burst from joy. She imagined the wedding. She would sit in the front row. She had already picked out her dress, lavender, the same shade she wore the day Calvin graduated college. She planned to wear the brooch her husband gave her on their last anniversary. Everything felt right. But then, 3 weeks before the ceremony, Calvin came to visit. Not with joy. Not with excitement. He sat stiffly on her couch, barely meeting her eyes. "Mom," he began, voice low, "I need to talk to you about something." She nodded, folding her hands neatly on her lap. "It's about the wedding. I've been thinking, maybe it's best if you don't come." The air in the room seemed to stop. He continued, avoiding her gaze. "It's not you, I swear. It's just, my fiancé's family is a little high profile. The press might be there. You know how people talk. And I don't want them to get the wrong idea." Evelyn blinked slowly. "The wrong idea about what?" Calvin swallowed. "About us. About me. It's just complicated. You've been amazing, Mom. But I think it's better, for everyone, if you stayed somewhere comfortable. Just for a while." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a pamphlet. A nursing home. Clean, tidy. With smiling staff on the cover. "Just for the weekend," he said. "You'll be well taken care of." Evelyn didn't speak. Her fingers tightened slightly. He placed the brochure on her coffee table. "They've already got a room ready. I booked it in advance." She looked at the photo on the cover. And for the first time in years, she truly felt old. Not because of her body. But because of her son. He kissed her on the forehead when he left, said thank you, and called her strong. Then he walked out the door. She sat there for nearly an hour. Still. Silent. The pamphlet unmoved. And when she finally stood to pack her things, it was not for a trip. It was for a burial. A quiet, private burial of something sacred. Something maternal. Something irreparably broken. The nursing home smelled faintly of bleach and powdered air freshener. Everything was clean. Sterile. Too quiet. Evelyn stood at the threshold of the room they had prepared for her. It was small, one single bed, one worn dresser, and a chair placed near a wall with no window. The wallpaper peeled slightly at the edges, and the air felt hollow, as if it had forgotten how to carry warmth. A young nurse helped her place her suitcase down. "We'll take good care of you, Ms. Monroe," she said with a practiced smile. Evelyn nodded. But she said nothing. She hadn't spoken much since the night Calvin left. Her suitcase wasn't full. Just a few dresses, a framed photo of Calvin as a boy, and the lavender gown she had planned to wear at his wedding. The nurse offered her a lunch tray, something warm, something forgettable. Evelyn forced a bite, then another. She didn't taste it. She couldn't. As the door clicked shut behind the nurse, Evelyn sat in the hard chair, the lavender gown still folded neatly on the bed. She stared at it. It stared back. She remembered when she bought it, weeks earlier, at a thrift store in a quiet corner of the city. She had ironed it 3 times. Practiced walking in it. Smiled in the mirror even though her eyes had long since dulled with age. But now, it would never see the light of a church aisle or the gleam of chandeliers. She didn't cry. Not because she wasn't broken. But because there was nothing left to shatter. Time moved differently in the nursing home. The days were slow, identical. 1 hour bled into the next without purpose. Meals came. Medications came. The television blinked on. It blinked off. And no one came to visit. The other residents sat in wheelchairs watching talk shows with the volume too loud. No one asked where Evelyn's family was. Perhaps they didn't need to. Everyone there shared the same silence. The silence of being left behind. On the morning of the wedding, Evelyn woke up early. No one in the home knew what day it was. But she did. She took the lavender gown from the bed and unfolded it gently. She brushed her thinning hair. Dabbed soft powder on her cheeks. Pinned her brooch, her husband's last gift, just beneath her collarbone. Her hand shook slightly. But her spine was straight. Then she reached into the drawer and took the photo of young Calvin, smiling with missing front teeth. She tucked it into her purse. She didn't know exactly why. But she couldn't leave it behind. As the clock struck 9, Evelyn stepped out of her room. The nurse at the front desk looked up, surprised. "Going somewhere, Ms. Monroe?" Evelyn smiled for the first time in days. "Yes," she said quietly. And with that, she walked through the front doors of the nursing home. Into the cold, morning air. Into the beginning of something no one expected. Evelyn stood at the bus stop alone, her cane steady beneath her right hand. The sky was overcast, the wind sharp against her skin. She wore no coat, just the lavender gown and a soft shawl draped over her shoulders. It was the only thing that still held her scent of home. She didn't know exactly where the wedding venue was. But she remembered Calvin once mentioning the name of the hotel in passing, bragging about its rooftop garden and imported chandeliers. She had remembered it not because she was invited, but because it hurt to hear him speak of it so proudly, without her. The bus arrived. She stepped on slowly, carefully. The driver didn't question her. She was just another old woman in a city full of stories no one asked to hear. Each stop felt like a heartbeat. Each turn of the wheel, a countdown. When the doors opened in front of the grand building, Evelyn hesitated. The hotel towered above her, all glass and steel, reflecting a world she no longer belonged to. But she walked in. Past the golden lobby. Past the marble columns. Into the ballroom foyer where laughter and camera flashes danced together. No one recognized her. Why would they? She was not on the guest list. She was not in the program. She was not even in her son's plans. But she was his mother. And that meant something, even if only to her. A kind young woman in a catering uniform passed by and paused. Her eyes widened slightly. "Mrs. Monroe?" Evelyn blinked. "Do I know you?" "I used to live next to you, years ago," the girl said. "You gave me hot soup when my dad lost his job. I never forgot that." The girl looked toward the ballroom doors, then back at Evelyn. "Are you here for Calvin's wedding?" Evelyn didn't answer. The girl didn't wait. "Come with me." She led Evelyn down the side hallway, past waiters and floral arrangements, through the service corridor, and into the back entrance of the ballroom. From behind the velvet curtain, Evelyn could hear music swelling. Then, applause. The master of ceremony was announcing the groom's entrance. She peeked through the curtain. There he was. Calvin. Her son. Dressed in tailored white, hand in hand with his bride. His smile was bright, his eyes shining. The crowd rose to their feet. Phones filmed. Guests clapped. And Evelyn stood in silence. She didn't cry. She didn't step forward. Not yet. Then came the groom's speech. Calvin took the microphone and laughed. "I wouldn't be here without my journey," he said. "There were hard times, but look at where we are now." There was no mention of her. Not even a hint. He looked past her as if she never existed. And at that moment, Evelyn stepped through the curtain. The clapping faded. The camera stopped. All eyes turned to the frail woman in lavender, standing at the edge of the aisle. Calvin's face froze. The bride's smile faltered. The room held its breath. And Evelyn finally exhaled. The sound of her cane tapping against the ballroom floor echoed like a slow clock. Tick. 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 Every guest turned to watch her walk. Some squinted, unsure who she was. Others, already whispering. The bride held her bouquet a little tighter. Calvin took a step forward, his smile cracked like glass. "Mom," he said, almost a whisper. Evelyn didn't answer. She kept walking. Her pace slow, but deliberate. She walked past the rows of chairs, past polished shoes and diamond bracelets, past faces painted in confusion and discomfort. She stopped when she reached the stage. Not climbing it. Not asking for permission. Just standing there. Then she looked up at Calvin, her son, standing at the peak of his new life, one she had built for him, stone by stone, ache by ache, without asking anything in return. Her voice was soft. But the room was silent. "I came to see my son get married." Calvin cleared his throat, glanced around. You weren't supposed to be here." The words hung there, weightless and heavy all at once. Evelyn smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I know." The MC stepped forward nervously. "Ma'am, perhaps we can." Evelyn raised a hand. "Just once." And everyone stopped. "I was not invited," she said, her voice steady. "Because I am too old. Too simple. Too inconvenient." Gasps whispered through the room like wind through dry leaves. "I carried this boy for 9 months. Raised him with my bare hands. I worked 3 jobs to put him through school. I skipped meals so he could eat. Skipped rest so he could dream." She turned to face the crowd now, not just Calvin. "And when the day came, the day every mother waits for, I was sent to a room with no windows. Hidden." The silence was suffocating. Calvin opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "I do not need your apology," she continued. "I came here not to ask for love, but to remind my son what love once looked like." She reached into her small purse, pulled out the photo of Calvin as a child, grinning with 2 missing teeth, and held it up. This, she said softly, was the last time he looked at me with pride. Her hand trembled as she returned the photo to her bag. She looked at the bride now. Not with judgment. Not with hatred. Just quiet, aching sadness. Take care of him, she said. And remind him, not to forget where he came from. Then she turned, cane tapping again as she walked down the same aisle. No one clapped. No one moved. Even the music had forgotten how to play. And when Evelyn reached the back of the ballroom, she paused once, looked back, not at Calvin, but at the empty chair in the front row where she was never meant to sit. Then she stepped through the door. Out of the room. Out of the wedding. Out of her son's spotlight. But not out of the story. The heavy ballroom doors closed behind her with a muted thud, swallowing Evelyn into a quiet hallway filled only with her own slow breath and the sound of footsteps, her own, measured and deliberate, as if her soul was counting each one. No one followed her. Not Calvin. Not the bride. Not even the staff. It was as if, by stepping out, she'd taken the weight of their shame with her, and left it hanging in the air like smoke from a fire no one wanted to admit was still burning. She didn't look back. Outside, the late afternoon sun was fading, bleeding orange into the horizon. The wind picked up slightly, tugging gently at the edges of her shawl. Evelyn crossed the hotel parking lot, step by painful step, toward the nearest bus stop. Her legs ached. Her fingers curled tightly around the handle of her cane. But her spine remained straight. And then, quietly, someone caught up to her. It wasn't Calvin. It was a young woman, no older than 20. A wedding guest, still dressed in formal heels and a pearl necklace. Her eyes shimmered. "Ma'am," she said gently, breathless. I wanted to say thank you." Evelyn turned her head, slowly. "I didn't grow up with a mother like you," the girl said, voice cracking. "But I wish I had. You said things I didn't even know I needed to hear." She handed Evelyn something small. A folded note. On the outside, it simply read, "For when you feel forgotten." Then she stepped away, disappearing back toward the golden doors Evelyn had left behind. Evelyn tucked the note into her purse beside the photograph and said nothing. She didn't need to. By the time she returned to the nursing home, it was nearly dusk. The halls were dimly lit. A nurse offered to help her to her room, but she declined. She moved slowly, deliberately, as if shedding the weight of the past one hallway at a time. Inside her room, everything was the same. The bed still made. The wallpaper still peeling. But the silence no longer felt suffocating. She sat on the edge of the bed, unwrapped the lavender gown from her shoulders, and placed it gently over the chair. Then she opened the note. Inside were only 10 handwritten words. "You reminded me that being a mother is sacred." Evelyn smiled, not a wide smile, but one shaped by decades of knowing that pain, like love, leaves a mark worth carrying. She reached for her photo frame, placed it on the nightstand, and for the first time in a long time, turned off the lights without fear of being forgotten. Somewhere across the city, in a honeymoon suite soaked in silence, Calvin sat alone on the edge of his bed. His phone buzzed again. The video had gone viral. Groom shames his mother, then she walks in and stuns everyone. Thousands of comments. Some cruel. Some compassionate. But most were angry. He stared at the screen. And for the first time in his adult life, he had nothing to say. The screen's glow lit Calvin's face in the dark hotel room. His tuxedo jacket was tossed on the floor. His bow tie undone. The celebration had ended hours ago, but he hadn't moved from the edge of the bed. He scrolled through the comments section for the 5th time, hoping it would hurt less. It didn't. "How could you do that to your mother? This man doesn't deserve a wedding, he deserves a lesson. She raised you. She sacrificed everything. And you hid her like shame? I cried watching that woman speak. May I never become the kind of child who forgets. The video had been shared across platforms, millions of views within hours. The hashtags were brutal. His face, frozen in a frame where his jaw was clenched and his mother's back was turned, was now a meme for ingratitude. His bride had gone quiet. She sat by the window, arms crossed, staring out at the skyline. She hadn't said a word since the guests started leaving early, some of them unable to look Calvin in the eye. He finally spoke. I didn't mean for this. No reply. I just wanted the day to be perfect. She turned toward him slowly. And who decides what perfect looks like, Calvin, she said, her voice low. A son without a mother? He opened his mouth, but the words stayed tangled in his throat. She raised you alone. And you put her in a facility like a problem to be tucked away. Her eyes shone, not from tears, but fury. What do you think that says about the man I just married? The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. Eventually, she stood. Picked up her bag. Slipped off the engagement ring and placed it gently on the nightstand beside his phone. Then she walked out. Calvin didn't stop her. He couldn't. Elsewhere, Evelyn sat by the window of her small room in the nursing home. A nurse had brought her tea. The photo of young Calvin was up right now, framed properly, no longer hidden in a drawer. She was reading a letter. It came from someone anonymous. The return address marked from another state. I watched what you did. I lost my own mother before I had the chance to apologize. Watching you speak reminded me how sacred mothers are. I wish I had said thank you when I still could. Thank you for reminding the world what real strength looks like. Below the letter was a single line written in careful, heavy pen strokes. The world saw him. But it saw you too. And we remember you. Evelyn folded the letter gently and placed it inside the drawer next to the others that had begun arriving. She didn't need to read them all in one day. She had time now. Not time to relive the past, but time to let it settle. Time to let the world speak where her son once went silent. She took a sip of tea. Closed her eyes. And listened to the world finally remembering what he had so easily forgotten. The days blurred into each other like brushstrokes of gray on an unfinished canvas. Evelyn no longer counted time by clocks or calendars. She measured it by small things, the way the light shifted on the floor of her room, the way the nurse smiled more gently now when bringing her breakfast, the way letters kept arriving. Some were from strangers. Some from mothers. A few from children who had seen the video and called their own parents for the first time in years. She read them slowly, one by one. Not for validation, but for something deeper. A quiet reminder that though she had been pushed out of her son's life, she hadn't disappeared from the world. Across town, Calvin sat in his now empty apartment. The walls felt louder than the silence. His phone lay face down, buzzing occasionally with news alerts and messages he hadn't opened. His bride, no, ex-bride, had posted a single message the day after she left. Silence is not strength. And forgetting your mother is not success. It was shared thousands of times. Brands began to pull away. His company removed him from the upcoming campaign he had worked years to land. His mentor stopped returning his emails. Everywhere he turned, there was Evelyn. Her image, standing in lavender, her cane steady, her voice clear. Her truth, captured in 4K and echoed in the hearts of millions. But she hadn't spoken to him. Not since the wedding. He wanted to call. He rehearsed it 100 times. But when he tried, his throat tightened. His hand froze. Shame was a weight not easily lifted. He drove by the nursing home once. Just to see if she was okay. He didn't go in. He saw her through the glass. She was laughing. Not the kind of loud laugh he remembered from childhood. But a soft, contented laugh, like a woman who had finally laid down a burden she never should have carried alone. She was seated between two other elderly women, all of them sipping tea and talking. Evelyn had her lavender shawl wrapped neatly around her shoulders. She looked peaceful. And that terrified him more than her anger ever could. That night, Evelyn sat in her room, flipping through a new stack of letters. One from a nurse's daughter. Another from a man who hadn't spoken to his mom in 15 years. All of them said the same thing. You reminded us. You made us remember. You gave us a voice. She reached for her small photo album. It was old, edges curled, pages faded. But inside were moments, real ones. Calvin, age 6, arms covered in chocolate. Calvin, age 10, winning a school award with her beside him, holding the trophy together. Calvin, age 17, eyes full of dreams. She smiled at the photos. She wasn't angry anymore. She was simply done waiting to be seen by the one person who had already made his choice. The next message came not through a letter, but a voicemail. Evelyn heard it while folding her cardigan. Her old flip phone buzzed on the nightstand. She picked it up, not expecting much. But the screen showed a number she hadn't seen in weeks. She listened. It was him. Hi. Mom. I don't know if you'll even hear this. But I needed to try. His voice cracked almost immediately. I watched the video again. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to. I needed to see what I didn't see when you were standing right in front of me. There was a pause. I don't know how to explain what I was thinking. I was so caught up in appearances. In success. In being admired. And I forgot the one person who gave me everything. I erased you to impress people who didn't even stay until dessert. Another pause. The wedding's over. The bride's gone. The sponsors are gone. Even my job's gone. But what hurts the most is knowing I made my own mother feel like she was never part of the picture. He sniffed. A soft breath on the line. You once told me love isn't loud. That it's quiet and patient and willing to be invisible if it means someone else can shine. I didn't understand it then. I think I do now. And then, the words Evelyn had long stopped waiting for. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I miss you. I miss us. I know I have no right to ask, but if you ever want to see me again, I'll be here. I'll wait. The line ended. Evelyn didn't cry. She stood still, phone in her hand, letting his voice echo in the corners of her mind. She didn't call back. Not yet. Instead, she pulled on her sweater and walked out into the courtyard of the home. The sun was soft that day, filtered by gentle clouds. Birds gathered near the feeder. A group of residents were playing a slow game of cards at a table nearby. She sat on her bench. The one the staff had painted lavender after the video went viral. They had even added a small plaque beside it. For Evelyn Monroe. The mother who reminded the world to never forget. She ran her hand along the wood. Behind her, a nurse walked out with a clipboard. You have a visitor scheduled next week, she said with a smile. Young man. Said his name is Calvin. Evelyn simply nodded. Should I confirm it? Evelyn looked ahead at the trees, their leaves whispering in the breeze. Yes, she said softly. Let him come. She didn't know what she would say. She didn't know if she'd say anything at all. But she would sit on that bench. And if he showed up, she would let the silence speak first. Because some truths don't need to be shouted. They just need to be met, face to face. The morning of the visit came quietly. No dramatic clouds. No rain. Just a soft warmth in the air, as if even the sky had agreed to hold its breath. Evelyn rose early. She wore a soft cream blouse and her favorite cardigan, the one with the delicate stitching around the cuffs. She didn't style her hair differently, didn't wear perfume. She wasn't preparing for a reunion. She was preparing for the truth. At 10:12 a.m., the gate buzzed. The nurse peeked into her room. "He's here." Evelyn nodded once, stood slowly, and walked outside. Calvin was standing at the edge of the courtyard. He wasn't in a suit this time. Just a simple shirt, sleeves rolled, hands clenched tightly in front of him. He looked older than he had just weeks ago. Not in body. In soul. When he saw her, he froze. She walked to the lavender bench and sat without speaking. He waited a moment, then approached. "May I?" She motioned to the other end of the bench. He sat. There were no greetings. No apologies. Only the sound of wind between them. And the birds, fluttering above, indifferent and alive. After a long moment, Evelyn reached into her purse and pulled out a small object. The photo. Calvin as a child, face sticky with chocolate, arms wide open, smile unguarded. She held it out. Calvin took it with trembling fingers. "I used to keep that on the fridge," she said. His voice cracked. "I remember." He didn't cry. Not yet. "I forgot how small I used to be," he whispered. "How much space I took up in your life. And how little I gave back." Evelyn looked at him. Long and slow. "You were never small to me," she said. "Even when I had nothing, you were everything." His shoulders shook. "I hurt you. I abandoned you on the most important day of my life." "No," she replied. "You abandoned yourself." He looked at her, stunned. "You forgot who you were. Who raised you. You traded your roots for ribbons. And now that the ribbons have come undone, you're here." He dropped his gaze. "Do you hate me?" She was quiet for a long time. Then, softly, "No. I mourned you." "There's a difference." Calvin's tears finally fell. "I don't know how to come back from this," he said. "You don't," Evelyn said. "You don't go back. You go forward. You remember. You rebuild. You show up." He nodded slowly. They sat there until the wind shifted. Before he left, Calvin stood and hesitated. "I'll come next week," he said. "If you'll have me." Evelyn didn't smile. But her eyes warmed. "I'll be here." He walked away slowly, the photo still in his hand. Evelyn remained on the bench, face lifted to the sky. The courtyard was quiet. But inside her, there was peace.